Well, good afternoon from sunny Wodonga in the seat of Indi, where people are lining up to cast their votes this afternoon. This still is a very close seat. It was won by the independent MP Cathy McGowan in 2013, who snatched that from the Liberals. It was then won in the last election by independent MP Helen Haines. Now, despite this seat being held by the independents for almost a decade, they're not taking that for granted. They know that this is a very tight election this year here on the border. Helen Haines holds that by a 1.4% margin, and she's been really quite frank during this federal election campaign that despite Indi being somewhat dubbed the blueprint for the independent movement, which we are seeing so much of during this year's 2022 federal election campaign, she's been frank that she's going to have to work quite hard to maintain that 1.4% margin and work to grow that. She's up against a Liberal candidate, Ross Lyman, a former army man, as well as a former policewoman, Nadia David, who's running for Labor up here. Now, there's been a number of key issues here in Indi. One that's really been almost forced to the table has been health and hospital. Here in northeast Victoria, we've seen 3 hospitals, Albury and Wodonga, which falls under one health service, and Wangaratta hospitals. They've all declared code yellows. Now, they're internal emergencies already this autumn. The healthcare workers say they are absolutely struggling to keep up with the growing population here, and infrastructure is failing. So we have seen candidates actually unite on this issue, to the point last weekend hundreds of healthcare workers and residents rallied on the border, really put pressure on these Indi candidates to do something about this issue, as well as the state governments, because they say it's time for a single site hospital here. Now, Indi MP Helen Haines is pushing for a $300 million commitment from the federal government to establish this hospital. The coalition's already put up $20 million as part of the Albury-Wodonga regional deal, and Labor has committed, if it is elected, it will establish an acute care centre in Albury-Wodonga to take that pressure off. But doctors really say that's not going to be good enough. They need the infrastructure. Now, another key issue here is integrity. Now, Helen Haines has drafted what she's really called the gold standard bill to establish a federal integrity commission. And she's been somewhat scathing of the coalition that they've failed to establish one during their term, and has slammed them for essentially breaking an election promise. So she's really kept that at the forefront of her campaign. And much like the rest of Australia, I guess the cost of living is also a huge issue here. We may be in the regions, but house prices are going up. Infrastructure is struggling to keep up. We're hearing, we're hearing from families who've had to put in hundreds of rental applications before they can get a roof over their house. And a recent report by advocacy group Everybody's Home has shown that around 60% of Indi residents will face mortgage stress due to rate rises.
Okay, Erin Somerville reporting there from Wodonga.